Good morning. The Ranter is back to go into yet another rambling diatribe of the news of the day. And this is one that I was going to be doing the past few weeks. Got inspired to do it after the Georgia runoff, and now the cinema thing came up, as I was just high times to do it as any. I've been kind of delayed because of other issues coming up in politics in our day-to-day that I felt like I should address as well. But I want to kind of do a continuation of my 3 videos concerning the degeneration of our politics. When I did those, I separated them between the Democrats, Republicans, and the people. And really, I'm just going to kind of be a broken record, because I already mentioned this beforehand. But I want to kind of discuss where we are at in our state of politics, and why I believe we are really in our decline in terms of our country due to this. An example that I will go to start with is with the Georgia runoff, with how certain people that I speak with who thought the result was going to be a foregone conclusion were surprised and even upset on how close it was. Now, that is a symptom of what's going on in terms of our politics. And to go into, at least in my opinion, of what was going on between Warnock and Herschel Walker, and what was going on with Herschel Walker in terms of him being a candidate, and so much was put behind him. You know, one part would be hopefully that people supported him because they really believed in what he was saying, or believed he would be a capable senator to represent them as Georgians. But I don't get that. I don't really see that as the motivations that was driving it. I think it was a lot more cynical than that. One of the basis of that is that, unfortunately, Herschel Walker couldn't really be trusted to do the speeches without people having to, walk it back, or, scratch their heads and have to have clarifications as to, what the hell is he talking about? Werewolves and vampires, that sort of thing. One of the reasons why I say it was a cynical thing for the big Republican support for Herschel Walker was something that I've been noticing the past few years, that in terms of who we want to go into Senate or Congress or even President, it used to be the understanding is that we want to get the best possible person to fill those roles. Someone who has the intelligence, someone who has the experience, the best possible person who is there to represent us, be it our district, or our state, or our country. But now, these days, and Herschel Walker is one, kind of think Fetterman in Pennsylvania is another, is that we are reaching and straining not for excellence but for mediocrity, for competency. And that's supposed to be enough. That's really sad, really, that people would rather go that route because they don't want to put in the work to see if they can find and garner the proper candidates for it. And Herschel Walker, he doesn't really live in Georgia. He has a house there that he has rented out for the past 17 years. He has more credentials of him being a resident of Texas than he has of Georgia. They ran him anyway. Is it the premise as that's the best that Republicans can do in Georgia? I mean, is it actually factual that Georgia's turn turn from purple to getting closer to blue is something the Stacey Abrams, machine is pushing for, that they're not really finding viable candidates in Georgia anymore? I don't know about that. And when I say when it comes to it being cynical, is what if Herschel Walker, pushing Herschel Walker is not because they're pushing him to be in Congress or Senate because they really believe that he could be a valued and viable person for the Republican Party, or are they pushing him because they want the R and the Senate seat? That as long as an R there, then they can, whittle down the already kind of thin majority the Democrats have. Maybe that's the case. But I mean, there are people who put their political, maybe not their full political careers on the line, but they really put their reputations on the line, backing him. There's with terms of like Ted Cruz and John Kennedy from Louisiana, or Lindsey Graham. I mean, remember Lindsey Graham crying on air for people to support Walker? I mean, why are you doing that? But I guess, in those moments of political stress, you have to put out as much guns as possible to try to get people to support. In my opinion, Herschel Walker, given that he wasn't really a Georgian, and the interpersonal issues that would behoove you not running for public office, is not a viable candidate, or at least for the Republican side and the Democrat side, really. But again, we're straining for mediocrity. When I went into the videos concerning the degeneration of our politics, I went and expressed my opinion on the fallacies of the Democratic Party, the Republican Party in our day and age, and the people who were supporting. And I'm going to continue that in this, as I said. We have a lot of major problems concerning our politics, and concerning the trajectory of how we're skating to the bottom here. When I was first contemplating doing this video, I was asked if I was able to do this without mentioning Trump's name. And my constant blaming of Trump of this and that, because I'm not obviously a fan of Trump. My pop-ups right here. Time in, because apparently I just closed that off for some reason, because I had to show you my dog. Anyway. And as I was saying, I was asked to see if I can do this type of video without mentioning Trump's name, and I was going to strive to do that. And because Trump is not to blame for our state of being, he is a symptom of a problem that we've been having for the last few decades. But his symptom, however, we have to mention, is metastasizing down and filtered down to our current crop of politicians and our political climate. So that even if Trump is not directly involved, people are operating like Trump in terms of, like, if they can't possibly win, or if they didn't win, then it must be election fraud. And then pushing out these conspiracy theories and tinfoil and so forth. So, with that mentioned, one moment here. With that mentioned, I want to go into what I believe is one of the problems of our current state of politics, including us dropping the concept of trust but verify. Give me a moment. Alright. Now, what I mean by trust but verify is a Reagan-era concept where The only time you're going to trust information is that you verify it. It is one of the things that we did during the Cold War. That if anything, say the Soviet Union said that they're doing this, whatever the issue is to go, oh, yeah, really? Well, let's prove it. We'll trust it after you prove it. And it is a concept that translates well into our politics, where if somebody says something, or promotes something or advocates something, then we go, okay, well, let's see the facts and figures of what you're talking about. And then they would produce the facts and figures, and even there'd be room for debate. I mean, no one is like questioning the validity of it to the point of, we're not going to debate this, you're just wrong. But you look at the numbers and you look at the whatever facts they present, and then if they don't jive, then you can debate it back, and then goes back and forth from that. However, this day and age, we're no longer doing that. Right now, we're in the concept of, oh gee, I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. I'm not going to back it up with any facts and figures. I'm just going to say it enough, especially say it over social media, that people are going to go, oh, well, since he said that, I believe that. Since he said that, so I'm going to continue with that. I'm going to add my own little spin to it. And then it filters down until we just get inundated with, like, information that is not verified, that has no real factual basis on it. And because of that, we disbelieve far easier than we are putting in the time to actually see if it's verifiable. We're just going to assume it's not. And that's a problem with both sides of the aisle here, because how partisan we are. Wherever that, a Democrat or a Republican will present in terms of policy, if the other side challenges it, we just tune them out because they're the other side, as opposed to seeing what their criticism of is, if there's any validity to it, or is it something that's worth debating. But again, it's we don't want to bother doing that anymore. We're getting, I dare say, a bit lazy about it. So there's that. We just seem to want to take that easy route of just whatever the opposite side says, we're just going to ignore or not bother to challenge or any of that nature. So you completely cut off the other side of whatever their point of view is, and you just live in this vacuum of what you say without facts or figures, because again, we just say it, we don't bother to prove it, and you just try to push it on your own side to see if you can get this all or nothing thing without any form of compromise. Because that's another problem with our environment these days, is that we are no longer in a position where it is the common practice to compromise, which is sad to say, because our government, our country in its fledgling years up to now, only exists because of compromise. I mean, you can rattle off the examples of that. Without their compromise, there wouldn't have been a Declaration of Independence. Without a compromise, there wouldn't have been an Articles of Confederation or a Constitution. Without compromise, we couldn't have the Great Compromise that staved off a civil war for 30 years. And it continues down the line of our history. But now we're to the point where we are almost openly, disparaging, reviling, demonizing the other side, hitting the political points, and from one side or the other. So when you get to that point, how could you possibly go and compromise with these other people that you've been not only hating, but you want your supporters to hate? And that's sad, because all you're thinking about is yourself in terms of politics. You're thinking about your tribe in politics. and you're not thinking about the country. When, the other day when Brittany Griner was released in that prisoner exchange, and people on Twitter are burning their hairs over it because she hates the country. She hates America. Why are they freeing her and not the Marine? Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, half of you people hate Democrats. Half of you hate this government because this government is currently has majorities in the Senate and has the presidency being run by a Democrat. You show hate towards people who are different from you. And these people are half the population. Actually, in terms of presidential numbers of the last vote in 2020, they're more than half the country. And you're saying this one civilian with no political significance, she can't come home because she expressed a political opinion of criticizing this country. That's what you're doing. Perhaps none of you people should go traveling in foreign lands, or else people who think like you would think that you don't deserve to come back. That's pretty unfortunate. But it is this what we have here in our it is what we have here in terms of our politics is we no longer have the ability to compromise. And our progress actually depends on that compromise. If we are all or nothing, one way or the other, between being conservative or progressive, then we are washing our hands of the other side of the country. He says, well, we're not going to compromise with conservatives. We're just going to push our progressive policies and our point of views along. We're going to shove them down people's throats whether they like them or not. And, because we know better. No, that's bullshit. We don't know better. We're all human beings. We don't know any better than anybody else. And flip the coin. Conservative thinking is the same way, just going in a different direction. No, we need to go back to this status quo. Our country is so lost. We're allowing progressivism to just spend us dry, and our moral centers are so destroyed because of there being, acknowledgments and respects of different sexual orientations and gender identities. And we know better. That all that's nonsense. We know better. Which again washes the hands of the other side. Because we're now geared that way, to think that way. And this is a problem that has progressed over the years. And if we thought that the politics was bad around the Clinton era, because I remember Dick Armey on the Senate floor suggesting that if Bill Clinton ever goes to his state, he better bring himself a bulletproof vest. That was pretty bad then. And then, in the Obama era, you have some Republican congressmen talking about tar babies. And trying to explain away what he meant by that. And, by the same token, the Trump era, you got plenty of people who, without verifiable evidence, uses Russiagate to just assume way too much about Trump. And go from there. And as someone who's an avid Trump critic, I fell into that bandwagon too. But again, it's one of those things where you're not trusting or verifying. I'm just listening to what the people were saying, and because of my own biases against Trump, and it says, oh well, that makes sense. And some things did make sense. It does make sense that you would have a question in terms of Trump and Russia because of the way he hugs Putin. I mean, there was something to be said about him not, when he would go on to Morning Joe, back when, he and the show Morning Joe were all friends, and Joe Scarborough trying to make Trump look like a mammal, and when they're discussing Russia and Russia, how Putin has killed journalists and killed political opponents, and Trump's reply to that is, well, you don't think that we kill people? No, he wants you to condemn him like every other politician would condemn him for killing political rivals and journalists in Russia, and he didn't even want to do that. That draws question, which is why it draws the imagination as to why there could have been some election interference or something that would sway the election to Trump. Because that gives you the imagination. That gives you like, oh, well, that makes sense. That's why that happened. But again, without the trust for verification, we don't really have the evidence of it other than conjecture. But unfortunately, that leads to our own detriment of what we have now. Because we spent so much time on that, and forgetting the fact that you don't need Russia to show that Trump was an unqualified, disqualified piece of shit. He does that on his own, from his own behavior, or from his own actions. And the only positive policy that came from the Trump administration, other people put that in his head. But, again, Trump is not the reason for where we are now. He is a symptom of where we're at now. And as I said, it's been metastasized down to other candidates like, Carrie Lake now, who just can't possibly just let go of the fact that she lost her election. We have to continue to sue and, go through that whole certification concept where all those people got up and just like, threatened the boards, you better not certify because, this is the fight against evil, or whatever. Is like, oh, you're all traitors if you certify. It's like, oh my god, traitors deserve death. So you're blaming, so you're threatening the board to their face that if they don't yield to your wishes, that you believe they should be killed. Yeah. I had this thing because I was actually been working on this video for a while now, this morning, and I had some technical issues, so I had to destroy what I originally did because it was corrupted. But I also wanted to talk about the concepts between comparing and contrasting and whataboutism. There is a difference. Excuse me. If Biden does something that is objectively bad or wrong, that is unpopular, that is not helpful, some people will go, oh yeah, well, Trump did that too. Trump did that too. Well, that's great, but that's also whataboutism. That's not addressing what is happening here in the moment. Now, there's a difference between whataboutism and comparing and contrasting. Let's take the border, which I think is the major example for a long time. Let's bypass Biden for a moment and talk about Trump here, which, I'm sorry, I thought I was going to do this. No. But I'm not talking about it in terms of him being the blame for everything here. So let's talk about Trump at the border, what happened at the border, what he was doing, which was god-awful, which was inhumane, that I made multiple videos over. And then someone will bring up Obama in his time, and then people will shout, whataboutism. Here's the thing. It's not whataboutism. it's compare and contrast. Because what was Trump doing here? You can compare it to what Obama was doing, Mr. Deporter-in-Chief, with mass deportations. If Trump was filling the cages, Obama built the cages. And why this is not a whataboutism, but this is compare and contrast, is that when you compare the two and contrast it, what Obama was doing was as inhumane and awful. However, he was keeping it on the download. He wasn't promoting it. He wasn't self-promoting it or pushing the concepts of it as an election policy era during the times of election. Obama wasn't talking about caravans and invaders to try to soften the blow of ripping away family members, children from parents, separating them by men and women and children, as what Trump was doing, proudly, to protect this country, while he was advocating building a wall as opposed to every other form of security that can be done at the border, including facilitating immigration cases by hiring more immigration lawyers and judges. Oh, no, just a wall. It is comparing and contrasting. Because again, Trump used it as an incentive for elections, to elect him and then to elect Republicans. I mean, you have Republicans who live in states nowhere near the border deciding to go down to the border and have an opinion on the border when they are congressmen and senators of their particular states kind of abandoning their states in order to talk about this border issue because it was a winning issue for them, at least that's what they believed. But while you're doing that, compare and contrasting, remember that we go forward with Biden. Biden is no better at the border than Trump. In fact, I dare say Biden perpetuates policies that Trump is doing, despite what Republicans claim that, oh, he just wants open border. It's totally open border. Because of the Biden policies, we're just opening the border. Then they cite stuff like, trucks were stopped and drugs were stopped at the border, and the logic of that fails because if it's an open border, no trucks would be stopped. And since they're stopping trucks that has drugs in it, seems pretty defending the border, isn't it? When they say that 10 people from the terrorist watch list were trying to cross the border and we caught them. Oh, Biden. Doesn't that mean that they just stopped them at the border? They successfully stopped 10 people out of the terrorist watch list from entering the country? They don't want to. It is an interesting concept of, like I said, what Biden is doing at the border, pretty much no different than what Trump is doing. But these people have a problem with Biden doing it as opposed to Trump. That it amazes me, and I've seen this on social medias in the groups that I follow in politics, where it's like, all of a sudden there is a humanitarian crisis at the border by the time January 20th, 2021 rolls along. That there wasn't one, for 4 years, but there was, during Obama. But then there wasn't a humanitarian issue during Trump, but now it is from Biden. There's kind of the issues with that, and that issues comes down to pure politics of, if my guy is doing something, well, your guy was doing it worse. I'm going to downplay what my guy is doing, but your guy, that's devil incarnate, and vice versa. Which again is not really the concept of being mature, intelligent, conscientious people in politics. Let's kind of circle back to the concept of compromise. One of the things that will keep this country limping along is compromise. And something that we're so diametrically opposed to doing. If we don't go back to that, the one form of regression I want us to do is regress ourselves back to the concept of compromising with ourselves in order to push progress along. If we don't do that, and these all or nothings goes back and forth, which leads to everything else that happens, where people whine about election fraud, or we're not possibly wanting to promote anything so long as the other side has some form of power. Because on that score, we have to understand that in this environment of politics, if you got one side is controlling in one house of Congress, the other side's controlling the other house of Congress and having a president, the opposition of that control does not want any progress to be done while their rival political entity is running the White House or has control of the House, has one house of Congress under control. Because they don't want that president to take credit for it. So where we are at with Republicans taking over the House is that they're going to gleefully go into investigations of Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Dr. Fauci, Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland, the Easter Bunny, the guy that sells you soap, any of that. They tell you that. They've been promoting that. That was the reasons. They cite that as the reasons for them that you should vote for them. Have you heard anything about inflation lately? Or anything that could be possibly used to, make your life better? Or improve things in this country? That's after we get done with these investigations. In terms of investigating, especially when it comes to the Twitter files, I have always been the type of person that has no fear of investigations. If you feel that something is actually in fact wrong, then you investigate it if you have the capability of it. Fine, do it. But understand, as I said in the last time around, in one of the last videos, that there is a egg timer when it comes to the people's patience when it comes to investigation over and over again. And people will turn and go, you only seem to be caring about this for the politics and not really caring about the point. Because if you're not, in good faith investigating somebody because you believe something is wrong, that's something that you can point to verifiably, and instead are doing it because you want revenge because they did that to your guy, then the people are going to go, no. It's like what they did with Hillary Clinton from Benghazi and anything else that they wanted to investigate her on, including the televising that 11-hour marathon where the Congress tried to browbeat her into anything remotely incriminating, and she was just sitting there and she took it for 11 hours without much strain, and they walked away looking like morons because they got nothing out of her, and she looked like $1 million afterwards. Have any of these people nowadays think that they have the stamina to go 11 hours in front of Congress? But they're going to do that. They're going to want to investigate. They want to do that to soothe their own political wounds for having a lackluster midterms. And again, that's another symptom of our downfall here. Without the compromise, downfall. With every election we're going to be having from this moment forward, they're going to promote, and I mean either side of this, they're going to promote there's always going to be a seed of doubt that comes with the election. And unfortunately, I have to point to Russiagate as to being one of the reasons why we're having this. Now, don't get me wrong on that, is that, even at 2016, Trump was, even when he won the election, Trump was still whining about election fraud. In 2016, when Hillary Clinton wasn't like completely soundly defeated by him, he was, right before the election was over, he was crying about election fraud, that she's going to win by election fraud. In 2020, months before the first vote was cast in the election day and thereafter, by June, he was talking about election fraud. He was sowing the seeds of election fraud so that people can grasp on that if and when he lost. That is a political tactic. That is not evidence of there being fraud. And again, he is a symptom. He is not a cause. He's not the cause of what we're going on today in terms of our politics. He's just an aggressive symptom that filtered down to other people. But now, with Trump nearly out of the way, as much as the Republicans are trying to do, and he's refusing it, they're still pushing, like, if we don't win, it's fraud. And we must demonize the other side as humanly possible, and both sides are doing that. How are you going to get people, centrist moderates, who believe enough or have values concerning social values, financial values, domestic, foreign politics, that understands the concept of the middle ground, that can work with the other side and be able to make the handshakes and make the progress for us to take the 2 steps forward. But if we all or nothing it, we're going to lose the country. We're going to lose the ability to function as a working government. We will fall into the decadence that befell the Roman Empire. And then we will be the afterthought. People can blame this partisan, polarizing bullshit on the 2-party system. They're not all that wrong about that. Because we don't really have this autocorrect in our political parties, and both parties are having issues here. It's not something that, I can just, all this problems is all the Republicans. No, it's not. For the Democrats, the problem is that as much as we have like progressive ideals, we have too many older establishment Democrats with the same liver-spotted hand on the grip of power, much like we complained the Republicans had years back, that don't want to lose that power, or are too timid to give the progressive movement the backbone and support it needs to push the policies. So they will pay the lip service for it, especially during election time, but they won't give it the full support, full-throated support necessary. And they're not cultivating these people who are progressive as the next leaders of the party. They're trying to keep it with the status quo. Anyone that can move and keep themselves on the middle ground, that they push forward. Those who are like, the time-honored names and so forth, that are seeing the sunset of their political careers, and people are still looking at them for guidance and leadership. But I can understand that when we want to push progressive policies, we still need the compromise on the other side, because we are not the whole country. We are only half. So we need to have people who are timid or for whatever reasons of either their values or how they were brought up is against certain things. We can't ignore them or disparage them, but we gotta take the little, sometimes as much as we want to sprint our way to the finish line. Sometimes it takes baby steps. Look at some of our demographic differences in our country, and how certain people of different skin pigmentation or sexual orientation or gender, I mean not even gender identity, just men and women, that it took forever, or took for a long period of time within our country's history to grow to the point of tolerance and acceptance within the populace. Sometimes things do not happen overnight, no matter how much you think it's common sense, no matter how much you think they should be, a no-brainer. Because there's half the country is not thinking that way, and we are too busy not talking to each other in order to develop the understanding that what we believe is common sense can be convinced to be common sense. Because we're not having the conversations back and forth about this. And when we try, we fail because of the way we talk to each other. If anyone that attempts to talk down to somebody else or tries to say they know better and they're trying to school people on any topic, the other side can easily tune that out, because that's asshole behavior. You see, you just oppose this because you don't know any better. You see, I know better, so you should listen to what I'm saying. No. It's like, oh, you know that? You have the facts and figures, but the way you're coming at me with that shit, fuck you. I'm not hearing that shit. And that, unfortunately, is an American concept that both sides enjoy. No. The problems with our country goes beyond Trump. It goes beyond Joe Biden, too. Because these problems is only going to get worse no matter who's the name, who's the D, and who's the R. People say that, it is part of the two-party system, and I agree that there are issues with it. As I mentioned with the Democrats, the Republicans have their own set of issues that I notice that, those who want to actually do semblance of government have to straddle a line between that and cater to tinfoil conspiracies that previous leaders, who I will not mention, that I've mentioned enough already, had catered to and spoke to them without the sense of responsibility. That does not set anybody straight, or give do the John McCain moment when he's talking to the lady and the lady says you can't trust Obama because he was an Arab, and John McCain says no, he's a great man, he's a good family man, I just have differences of opinions and that's why I'm here. You don't have that type of leadership anymore, as far as I can tell, in reality either side, but we're looking at Republicans for the moment. You have people who will give a mic to somebody and he'll spout out conspiracy theories and tinfoil, and the person will go, yeah, I agree, that's a problem, we're gonna have to look into that. Or go on social media and fan the flames of anger and misunderstanding and hate, because they think angering their supporters garner them support, will garner them votes. In terms of the midterms, as I mentioned on there, historically, when the ruling party, meaning the party that has the House, the Senate, and the presidency, in these midterms traditionally would lose 4 Senate seats and at least 40 House seats. Biden, for this midterms, gained 2 Senate seats and lost 2 or 3 House seats to give Republicans a majority. That's unprecedented, at least in our modern politics. And in kind of landing the plane here, I want to mention about Christina Sinema leaving the Democratic Party for becoming an independent. She will continue to caucus with the Democrats, so she's not really leaving in terms of, just she's going to hang out with Republicans. Though admittedly, she votes enough on their side to get like fist bumps from them when she by her vote destroys a Democratic policy that would be going through. But I think, again, there's a cynical nature to her choice at this time when Warnock won his Georgia runoff. Fetterman won his race, and the Democrats kept the majority in the Senate by 2 seats that nullifies Sinema and Manchin's vote. So what did she do? She leaves the Democratic Party to become an independent, and almost helps her secure her position as being an outlier in the Senate that can also, still destabilize anything Democrats want to do in the Senate that she opposes because she has to, because she's in a conservative district. Same thing as Manchin. For their political livelihood, they have to. They have to be able to represent the people that vote them in. And that's not the same as people like from California or Northern Virginia or anywhere else that are Democratic strongholds, right? And again, this is all or nothing mentality that is bringing us down. And when it comes to Sinema, she will have an interesting way forward if she goes into the next elections as an independent. The Republicans will put up a MAGA candidate next time around, maybe, unless hopefully if the MAGA thing actually goes away by the time we get into the next election cycle. But for calculational purposes, let's say they do for the next time around, and the Democrats bring up somebody who might be a little bit more progressive to try to challenge her on the other end, Sinema can still win this and maintain her independent position and maintain her seat. Because again, it's all depending upon her voters. What we need is we need to go back to the position where we can compromise. You get something, I get something, I lose something, you lose something, but in the grand scheme of things, what we gain makes what we lose tolerable. That we shake hands and we move forward. Because in the future, we do that enough, everything that we give up, we will gain in some form or fashion down the line, when the things that were demonized initially becomes more intolerable, and it becomes just a fact of life and it's common sense, and then we move forward. You look at what we started with in this country at the end of the 18th century into the 19th century to what we're doing now in the 21st century. Think of the people who can vote now. And I'm not talking about like just black folk, but women. Thinking about the tolerance that people put up with in terms of interacting with each other and understanding that civil rights belongs to everybody, to now where it's accepted with few glaring caveats to that, of people still being assholes in various forms, including into our governmental system in terms of certain people, but be that as it may, it's still a struggle, still a work in progress. And that's the thing. Our country is always going to be a work in progress. But it's the progress that's important. Alright, enough of this. Ranter rants because the urge to rant is always rising. I'll see you next time.